Today, I'm going to be explaining to you exactly how to handle the "now is not a good time" objection. You only have to ask one question. When you ask them to frame things in a positive mindset and you force them to think of why is now a good time, and they will tell you exactly why now is a good time to move forward, because it forces them to think like that. Uphill battle for us was just we were priced so high, but how did I have such a high close rate? They're not going to want to turn around at the end of the call and use this objection anyway. If they do want to stall for whatever reason, they can't use this one now because they don't want to give it up and say, oh, actually, I want to put this off. I don't want to start now. Tell me why now is a good time to work with me. That's a pretty powerful statement, right? Alright guys, welcome back to another video. Today I'm going to be explaining to you exactly how to handle the "now is not a good time" objection that you might face at the end of the call. And it is literally stupid simple. It's so easy. You only have to ask one question during the call before the discovery phase even begins on the call. So if you don't know anything about me, my name is Slow Gibson. All I do is talk about service businesses online, right? I try and give away all the experience and knowledge I've built up over the last 10 years where we scaled PB Academy, an online coaching company, to over 250 plus active clients. From a sales perspective, I've done over 1,000 sales calls in the last 2 years, close to 89%. So that's my experience, and all I believe in is not these typical Wolf of Wall Street salesy, sleazy tactics that you force people to objection handle at the end of the call. I believe, from the lived experience I've had, if you just ask the right questions on the call, you strategically ask these questions so that it pre-handles all possible objections, and more importantly makes them see the value in what you actually do, so the price just seems like an absolute no-brainer at the end of the call. I rarely faced any at the end of the call, rarely faced any objections, so unless it's generally not the right fit for that person. So yeah, and I want to give that away to you. So this is one of the 18 pillars that I go through in terms of the questions I actually ask. And to say it easily, it's like 18 pillars. There's 18 questions I ask on a call. As long as I tick every single box like a checklist, the call goes very well and successful. So first of all, I've got the wrong title because this was another video we done yesterday on what's the price. You know, you get that obvious question of like, what's it cost? How much does this cost? And we talked about how to handle that. So that's a quick 10-minute video if you're interested in that. But today, I'm going to keep it on the same page because I'm just writing down the question. So this can be translated to maybe next quarter, maybe doing this in a few months, maybe next week. Like, it's an objection where they just put off action and the objection they use. And the point of this as well, by the way, all these pre-handling of objections is to just get rid of all the easy smoke screens they can use at the end of a call. Because usually objections at the end of the call, they're just a smoke screen for like a deeper underlying issue. So it allows you to just tackle that issue head on if they've still got something they're not satisfied with by the end of the call where you want them to move forward with you. The easy question I ask, right, and this is literally straight after the introduction. So let me give you a scenario. I'm on a call with someone. I've just introduced myself. We've gone through the typical quick statement that I open with, and then I actually make this seem really like something that's not scripted at all, like something that's just come to my mind, popped in my mind. And the way I do it is I just ask the simple question, and you can literally ask this straight away on your next call and see how it goes. And you just say, the question is, before I actually show you the proper framing of it, the question is, why is now a good time? Simple as that. Like, I know you're probably thinking, well, it can't be this easy, but it is really that easy. When you ask them to frame things in a positive mindset and you force them to think of why is now a good time, and obviously if you just ask that, they're going to see it as very sleazy, but when we frame it properly, you can tell it's just very authentic and genuine. And they will tell you exactly why now is a good time to move forward, because it forces them to think like that. Like, if I ask you to think of why is now not a good time to do something, your brain easily finds all these negatives because that's the way we're wired anyway. So throughout the call, it's very easy for someone to think of reasons, your brain to think of reasons to not go forward, because there's always going to be risk involved with any new service you sign up with. So our job is to force them to think positively about this situation and not go to that default of thinking negatively, right? Most of the time, if I'm from the UK, we're not dealing with people from America. Like, they're way more positive and they're way more, when it comes to business and investments and investing in themselves, they're way more positive about that type of stuff. I was selling fitness services for prices that were like probably 5 to 10 times more than what people would expect to pay. So that's what I was fighting with. Like, the uphill battle for us was just, we were priced so high. But how did I have such a high close rate? Because we presented the value so well that it was an absolute no-brainer. They weren't buying the service specifics, they were buying the outcome, and that's what they were investing in. So yeah, let me just go through the exact framing that I would go through with this, right? So I've written it out because I've done a post on it last night. I'll read you the script word for word. So what I would say is, let's say I've just introduced myself, and I've basically talked through the running order of the call. I'm about to run through into the next pillar, the next question, and start the call. But I actually go like, before we move on, I just want to say, I already like your mindset jumping on the call today. People can sometimes put things off and wait for the right time, next Monday, start next month, but you're already making the first step today and taking action, which is exactly the type of mindset I'm looking for. I'm just curious though, because you could have done this at any point in your life. Why have you decided now is a good time to start? That's a pretty powerful statement, right? Let me just break through word for word, line for line, why that's in there, right? So I'm not a big believer in following scripts, by the way. I train myself on scripts, and I just go through pillars on a call. So big believer in no scripts, pillars on a call. It basically means checklist. As long as the conversation can go in any direction, you bring it back through and you ask the right questions, you go through and tick off every single pillar, you're going to have a successful call. But to train on these things so you remember them and it becomes easy to ask the questions, yes, you should read the script, you should follow the scripts and train on the scripts, because there's a reason every single line is in there. So I just want to say, I already like your mindset jumping on the call today, right? I'm attaching that person to an identity. And when you attach someone's identity, a person to that identity that's positive, that they want to be associated with, they are not going to want to let that go. I've already attached them to someone that is, a positive thinker, someone that likes to move forward, someone that likes to take the next step, that's not going to wait for the right time, like all the typical things that like people that aren't successful do. And that's why I've brought that up then later on. They're not going to want to turn around at the end of the call and use this objection anyway. If they do want to stall for whatever reason, they can't use this one now because they don't want to give it up and say, oh, actually, I want to put this off. I don't want to start now. Like, it's just such a cheap objection for the real problem. So I'd rather than bring up the real problem. So the whole point of this is to get rid of those, smokescreen objections. So people can sometimes put things off and wait for the right time. So again, I'm literally using the words they would say if they were to use this objection. Like, now's not the right time, maybe start next Monday, maybe start next month. So I'm saying all these things, then I'm attaching it with a negative mindset, like someone that's not going to be successful. And then what I attach them to back again is the identity. So, but you're already making the first step today, taking action, which is exactly the type of mindset we're looking for. Like, already aligning ourselves with each other that this is the type of person that we like to work with. Someone that's taking action today based on the way they've filled out the form, obviously. And then I say, I'm curious though. So it's a genuine question because you could have done this at any point in your life. So this is the frame for the question. So instead of me just saying to you, right, tell me why now is a good time to work with me? Like, they're going to be like, I know exactly what you're doing here. But if you frame a question the right way, they're going to be far more trusting and able to open up and give you the real answers. An example I always give of this is like, if I met you on the street today and I walked up to you and I say, how much money you got in the bank? You're going to be like so protective, maybe annoyed, like, why is someone asking this question? How rude. But if I walked up to you in the street, I was wearing a suit and I clearly was coming out of a fancy car, had a fancy watch on, and I said to you, listen, I'm a wealth manager, I deal with a lot of successful people and I like to help people make more money with the money they've already got. Do you mind giving me an idea of how much money you have in the bank, how many savings you have? You're going to be way more likely, maybe you're not still going to because you don't trust me, who is this guy, but you're way more likely to tell me or give me a range of how much you've got. That's a frame. So that's what I'm doing here, is just framing the question by saying, I'm curious though, you've booked in the call today because you could have done this at any point in your life, which is fair. Like, why now? So why have you decided to think, why is now a good time to start? And then they tell you the reasons. And then you just bank that up. You write it on your notes quickly as they tell you the answer. And you just have it as ammunition later on down the line. If for whatever reason they do give up that identity they've associated themselves with and they decide to throw that objection at you, you can just bring it up. You said, but I thought, you did kind of say this earlier in the call. So has anything changed during this call? And they're like, no, nothing's changed. It's just this is the real objection. So they will actually tell you the real problem I have. So it just gets rid of that smoke screen, and even if they bring it up, you can handle that smoke screen and just move forward with it straight away. So yeah, worked really well for me. It literally like never brings that objection up at the end of the call. Then after you do go through this, and you make sure you go through that at the start of the call, because it just already, it's literally before the discovery phase even starts. So it forces them into a positive mindset of thinking this is the right time to do things, and just not thinking negatively about why I shouldn't be going ahead with this. So yeah, if you like this type of stuff, I put out all these videos to try and help service businesses grow, just from, I love talking about my own experiences, my own stories and things I've been through. So make sure you subscribe, and yeah, I'll see you soon.